Imagine driving a Formula One car on a sheet of black ice.
Right.
Now imagine doing that while you are physically suspended out of the window, like hanging horizontally over the track by nothing but a bungee cord attached to your waist.
Yeah, which sounds entirely terrifying.
It really does. You are making these split-second tactical decisions at highway speeds, relying completely on invisible forces to keep you moving, and, knowing that a single miscalculation of even 1 centimeter will instantly result in a catastrophic crash.
Yeah, a total wipeout.
Exactly. That is the reality of the boat we are looking at today. And yet, when most people close their eyes and picture a sailboat, that is not the image that comes to mind, is it?
No, not at all.
We picture, a sunny Sunday afternoon, a gentle, forgiving breeze, maybe someone in a crisp white polo shirt casually holding the tiller, sipping a beverage, just gracefully gliding across a sparkling bay.
It's the ultimate picture of leisure, right? Tranquil, relaxing.
Peaceful.
Yeah, but it is a very romanticized image. It's the aesthetic that sells 1,000 luxury lifestyle magazines.
For sure.
But it is also a complete universe away from the reality of the highly weaponized, intensely athletic machines we are looking at today. The casual cruiser and the modern Olympic sailor might both be using the wind, but that is literally where the similarities end.
Which is exactly why today we are taking a massive high-powered magnifying glass to a completely different side of the sport. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
We are stepping into the high-stakes, hyper-competitive, absolute adrenaline-fueled world of Olympic-class sailing. And we have a huge stack of sources in front of us for this one.
We really do.
Ranging from comprehensive technical breakdowns of specific boat classes to historical archives of legendary regattas, all the way to the very latest news articles detailing the 2026 Sailing Grand Slam.
Right, to the new circuit.
Yeah. And most importantly, we are digging into some truly radical, highly controversial format changes coming to the sport.
And our mission for you here is to understand a fascinating transition. We aren't just looking at the nuts and bolts of how these incredible machines operate on the water.
Though we will definitely get into the physics of that.
Oh, absolutely. But we are examining how an ancient, 140-year-old competitive institution is fundamentally altering its own DNA to survive in the modern broadcast era.
Right.
Sailing is at a massive inflection point right now. It is locked in a very real, very tense battle between its deep maritime traditions and the insatiable demands of modern, fast-paced entertainment.
And I think even if you have never set foot on a boat, even if the absolute closest you've gotten to sailing is looking at the ocean from a beach towel, the sheer engineering genius and the human drama involved here are universally fascinating.
Yeah, it translates to anyone.
Because as you'll see, this isn't just about wind and water. It's about active aerodynamics. It's about navigating truly bizarre international bureaucracies. And it's about the absolute limits of human psychological endurance.
And it's about the lengths a sport will go to, literally rewriting its own mathematics in order to keep you from changing the television channel.
Exactly. It's a perfect microcosm of what happens when athletic purity collides head-on with the attention economy.
Well said. And to understand that collision, we really have to start by looking at the equipment that forced sailing into this hyperkinetic era.
The hardware. And there is one boat that basically serves as the poster child for this modern sailing adrenaline, right? The 49er dinghy.
Oh, the 49er, yes.
Looking at the technical specs from our sources, this thing is an absolute monster. It was designed by an Australian named Julian Bethwaite.
Right, he's the son of Frank Bethwaite.
Oh, who is he?
Frank Bethwaite is essentially a legend in high-performance sailing meteorology and design. So Julian had this incredible pedigree.
Ah, I see. So Julian designs this boat, and the 49er has actually been an Olympic class since the 2000 Sydney Games.
Yeah, quite a while now.
With the women's equivalent, the 49er FX, added later for the Rio 2016 Games. But let's break down exactly what makes this boat so insane, because it's not a normal sailboat, it's a skiff.
Right, and to understand the 49er, you really have to understand the fundamental difference between a displacement hull and a planing hull.
Okay, lay it on me.
So most traditional sailboats are displacement boats. They sit deep in the water, and they basically have to push the water out of their way to move forward.
So they're kind of plowing through it.
Exactly. They are effectively trapped by the physics of their own wave-making drag. You can only push water out of the way so fast.
Right.
But a skiff like the 49er is designed to plane. When it hits a certain speed, the hydrodynamics of the hull literally lifts the boat up so it breaks free of that drag.
Wow.
It skims directly on top of the surface of the water like a skipped stone.
And to achieve that lift, to break free of the water's grip like that, you need a preposterous amount of power relative to the boat's weight, don't you?
You absolutely do.
And looking at the numbers here, the whole weight of the 49er is a mere 94 kilograms.
Yeah, that is incredibly light for a nearly 5-meter boat. You and I could easily pick it up.
But the engine driving it, the sails are massive. The upwind sail area is nearly 20 square meters.
Right.
And then, when they turn downwind, meaning the wind is at their back, they hoist something called a tri-radial asymmetric spinnaker. And that thing is over 37 square meters.
It's enormous.
So let's translate that for someone who doesn't speak sailing jargon. What exactly is a tri-radial asymmetric spinnaker?
Good question. It's essentially a highly specialized, precisely engineered parachute.
Okay.
So tri-radial refers to how the fabric panels are cut and stitched together. Instead of just straight horizontal or vertical lines, the panels actually radiate outward from the 3 corners of the sail.
Oh, so they point toward the middle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what this does is it distributes the massive load and tension perfectly across the fabric. It prevents the sail from distorting when a huge gust of wind hits it.
That makes sense. And the asymmetric part.
Right, so asymmetric means it's not perfectly round like a hot air balloon. It's shaped much more like an airplane wing, and it's flown off a long pole sticking out the front of the boat called a bowsprit.
Okay, I can picture that.
Because of this aerodynamic shape, the 49er doesn't just get pushed forward by the wind. The air flowing over that asymmetric spinnaker actually generates lift.
Like an airplane taking off.
Yes, allowing the boat to sail significantly faster than the actual speed of the wind itself.
Which is just wild to think about. You are basically strapping an oversized, highly aerodynamic parachute to a featherweight surfboard.
That's a great way to put it.
The amount of force that must generate is terrifying. And because of all that power, the physics of keeping the boat upright are entirely dependent on the physical bodies of the 2 sailors.
Absolutely.
So the helm is steering the boat with an extension on the tiller, and they're making all the tactical decisions, while the crew is constantly adjusting the tension on those massive sails.
Right, pulling ropes nonstop.
But neither of them are sitting comfortably inside the boat. They can't. If they sat in the boat, the wind would just blow the whole thing over instantly.
Yeah, this introduces the concept of the trapeze, which is central to high-performance skiff sailing. So both sailors wear these heavily reinforced harnesses around their hips and thighs. And these harnesses have a metal hook right on the front.
Okay.
Running all the way down from the very top of the mast are high-tension wires. The sailors hook themselves to these wires, step up onto the edge of the boat, and physically push themselves backward out over the water.
Oh my God.
Yeah, they are cantilevered entirely outside the hull, suspended horizontally above the waves. They are using their entire body weight as human ballast to counterbalance the massive heeling force, which is the tipping force generated by the sails.
It is just this delicate, high-speed balancing act. You are flying over the water, suspended by a wire, constantly bending your knees and moving your body in and out to adjust to invisible puffs of wind.
And Bethwaite designed the boat to make this even more extreme.
Wait, how could it be more extreme?
Well, the 49er features solid wings, or racks, extending off the sides of the hull.
Okay, I see that in the specs.
Yeah, unlike older racing dinghies that just used, like, metal tubes for the crew to stand on, the 49er has these solid contoured wings.
Why go with solid wings instead of just tubes?
It's entirely about agility and footwork. The 49er is incredibly unstable. When the boat tacks or jibes, which means changing direction, so the wind crosses from one side of the boat to the other, that massive 20 square meter sail power shifts instantly.
Oh, wow.
The boat violently wants to slam down into the water on the new side.
So they have to move fast.
Extremely fast. The 2 sailors have to unclip their harnesses from the wire, sprint across the deck from one side to the other, hook onto the new wire, and throw their bodies out over the water in a matter of like 2 or 3 seconds.
And if they don't?
If they stumble, if they half a second too slow, the boat capsizes. The solid wings provide a continuous, stable platform so the sailors can literally run gunwale to gunwale without worrying about missing a metal tube and breaking an ankle.
Okay, so going back to my Formula One analogy, it's not just driving on ice. It's unbuckling your seatbelt and leaping to the passenger side mid-turn every single time you steer.
That's exactly what it is.
The margin for error is essentially zero. But the engineering of the rig itself is designed to help them survive this extremity. Let's talk about the mast and the mainsail, because the materials here are straight out of aerospace engineering.
They really are.
The mast is a 7-meter, 3-piece assembly made of 100% standard modulus carbon fiber, and it's supplied by a company called Southern Spars.
Right.
Now, when I see standard modulus, my instinct is to think, well, why didn't they use high modulus? Why didn't they use the absolute stiffest carbon fiber available for an Olympic boat?
That is a brilliant question, and it cuts right to the heart of how this boat is tuned.
Okay.
In a lot of applications like building a race car chassis, you want maximum stiffness. High modulus carbon fiber provides that. But a mast on a 49er cannot be perfectly rigid.
It can't.
No, it has to bend. When a massive gust of wind hits the sails, if the mast was perfectly stiff, all that force would instantly transfer to the hull and violently flip the boat over.
Oh, I see.
By using standard modulus carbon, the engineers at Southern Spars created a mast that is incredibly strong, yet flexible enough to act as a shock absorber. It bends dynamically under pressure, working in perfect concert with the shape of the mainsail.
And the mainsail is the other piece of this brilliant puzzle. It's not your traditional triangular white cloth sail.
No, not at all.
It's made of mylar, which is essentially a high-strength, transparent polyester film that doesn't stretch. And it is fully battened, meaning there are rigid fiberglass rods running horizontally all the way across the sail to hold its shape perfectly.
Yeah, it looks like a wing.
But the most visually striking thing is the top. It's a square top sail. It literally looks like someone took a giant pair of scissors and chopped the top triangle off the sail.
It does.
And our sources emphasize this isn't just to look aggressive or modern on the water. It serves a deeply critical physical function related to gust response.
That's right. Let's break down the aerodynamics here. When a sudden, violent gust of wind hits a traditional triangular sail, what we call a pinhead sail, the force hits the highest point of the mast. In physics terms, that high point acts as a massive lever against the center of gravity of the boat.
Right.
This exponentially increases the heeling moment, which is the force trying to tip the boat over. It's like someone pushing you near your shoulders rather than pushing your knees. You are much more likely to fall over.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
But the 49er square topsail is an exercise in active aerodynamics. Because of how the mylar is cut and how the battens are angled, when a massive gust hits that sail, the top square section is designed to actively twist off to leeward.
Meaning it twists away from the wind.
Exactly. It twists away from the wind and flattens out. It acts exactly like an automatic exhaust valve.
Wow.
It instantly dumps the excess, dangerous pressure at the top of the mast, which drastically reduces that tipping force. It keeps the boat upright, and more importantly, it translates that forward momentum into pure acceleration rather than just heeling the boat over.
That is incredible.
And the sailors don't even have to adjust a rope. The sail breathes and exhausts the wind automatically.
It's just phenomenal engineering. But here is the part of the 49ers design story from the sources that absolutely blew my mind. And it has absolutely nothing to do with fluid dynamics, carbon fiber, or wind.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
It has to do with the literal length of the hull. The name 49er comes from its length. It is exactly 4.99 meters long. Not 5 meters, 4.99.
Yes, the historical quirk of its creation. It is one of the most fascinating intersections of sport and geopolitics.
According to the sources, when the International Sailing Federation, now called World Sailing, put out the official design brief for a new high-performance Olympic dinghy in the late 90s, they specifically requested a 5-meter boat.
Right, that was the spec.
That was the mandated spec. They wanted 5 meters, so why is it 4.99? Because during the design phase, a member of the development consortium, a man named Takao Otani, raised his hand and pointed out a massive logistical nightmare.
Yeah, he caught a huge issue.
He noted that the Japanese government imposed a specific, highly punitive tax tariff on any boat imported into the country that was exactly 5 meters or longer.
Exactly.
If they made the boat 5 meters, it would be prohibitively expensive to import and sail in Japan. It would effectively kill its chances of becoming a truly global Olympic-class boat because a major sailing nation couldn't afford to adopt it. So the consortium literally chopped 1 centimeter off the design.
It reveals the hidden, often invisible forces that shape athletic equipment, doesn't it?
It really does.
As fans, we assume that every single millimeter of an Olympic machine is dictated purely by computational fluid dynamics and the absolute unyielding pursuit of speed. We assume form perfectly follows function.
Right.
But the reality is that the 49er, arguably the fastest two-person, one-design monohull dinghy on the planet, owes its defining dimension, its very name, to a random piece of Japanese tax code.
It really makes you pause and wonder, If the fastest boat on the water is 4.99 meters, purely to dodge a Japanese shipping tariff, how much of cutting-edge sports engineering and other fields is just navigating weird international bureaucracy?
It's a great question.
Like, how many Olympic track shoes or racing bicycles or bobsleds have their dimensions constrained not by physics, but by someone in a boardroom trying to avoid an import duty?
It's a pragmatic reality of global sports administration. To make a piece of equipment an Olympic class, it must be accessible globally.
Yeah.
The design consortium, which included the Bethwaits in Australia, Performance Sailcraft Japan, Peter Johnston and Ovington Boats in the UK, they understood a fundamental truth. Technical brilliance is completely useless if the boat is economically non-viable in a major global market.
That 1 centimeter compromise isn't a failure of engineering, it's a masterclass in ensuring the survival and proliferation of the sport. Okay, so that is the 49er. A brilliant, terrifying machine sailed by two people in perfect sync. But to truly grasp the physical and mental toll of Olympic sailing, we can't just look at the boats where the burden is shared.
No, we have to look at the solo sailors.
We do. We have to look at the athletes who do this completely alone. We need to transition from the symbiotic teamwork of the skiff to total, crushing isolation. And that brings us to the single-handed equivalent of these high-performance races.
Right.
And specifically, the absolute pressure picker of the 2023 Sailing World Championships.
Yes, the ILCA6 competition. This is where we strip away the partner, we strip away the shared responsibility, and we place the entire burden of navigating the wind, the waves, and the fleet onto a single human being.
Exactly. The ILCA6. For a long time, this boat was known as the Laser Radial.
Right. The name changed recently.
Yeah. It's the women's single-handed dinghy class at the Olympics. And unlike the 49er, you are entirely on your own. You are the helm steering the boat. You are the crew constantly pulling in and easing the main sheet.
You're doing everything.
You are the tactician calculating the wind shifts and the current. And crucially, you don't have a trapeze wire to hang from.
No wire at all.
To keep an ILCA 6 flat against the wind, you have to do what's called hiking out.
Oh, hiking, yes.
You slide your feet under a strap in the bottom of the boat, and you hang your upper body backward over the side of the hull. You are supporting your entire torso weight with nothing but your abdominal muscles and your quadriceps.
And you're doing this for 45 minutes straight, while getting smashed in the face by salt water.
It sounds like literal torture.
The physiological demand of the ILCA6 is staggering. It requires the cardiovascular endurance of a marathon runner combined with the isometric core strength of a gymnast.
Wow.
And all of that physical exertion is just the baseline requirement to keep the boat moving. On top of that, your brain has to be processing complex geometry, meteorology, and the tactical positioning of 50 other boats simultaneously.
And the 2023 Sailing World Championships, which were held in The Hague in the Netherlands from August 13th to the 20th, showcased exactly how brutal this can be.
It was a wildly intense event.
Let's set the stakes for now. This wasn't just about winning a world title, which is massive in its own right. This specific event served as the primary high-stakes qualifying event for the 2024 Olympic sailing competition.
Right, the quotas were on the line.
Exactly. 16 out of the 43 national quotas were being distributed right here on the North Sea. So for these 110 competitors from 54 different nations, their entire Olympic dream, 4 years of agonizing training, was hanging in the balance on these gray, choppy waters.
The tension in the boat park before an event like this is palpable. You have athletes whose national funding, their sponsorships, and their entire careers depend on finishing in the top tier of this specific regatta.
And the drama that unfolded during this event was incredibly cinematic. Let's look at the heavyweights in the field.
Let's do it.
You had Anne-Marie Rindom of Denmark, who was coming in as the reigning world champion after winning the 2022 event in Texas.
Right, so she was the target everyone was aiming for.
Then you have the absolute local favorite, Marit Bouwmeester of the Netherlands. Bouwmeester's practically sailing royalty, a 3-time Olympic medalist, the reigning European champion, and she had just won the Paris 2024 test event a month prior.
A phenomenal resume.
And now she was competing in her home waters in front of a Dutch crowd expecting gold.
The psychological weight on Baumeister must have been immense.
I can't even imagine.
I mean, sailing at home sounds like an advantage because, the local currents and wind patterns. But the media scrutiny and the pressure to perform for your federation can be paralyzing.
Oh, absolutely. And from day one, the narrative started violently shifting. The sources show us how incredibly tight the scoring was and how chaotic a large fleet of 110 boats can be.
It's basically a traffic jam on the water.
Yeah. After the very first day of racing, you had Maria Erdi of Hungary and Carolina Albano of Italy tied at the top of the leaderboard with 6 points.
Oh.
But in sailing, a lead is incredibly fragile.
Yeah.
By August 17th, a few days later, Emma Plaschert of Belgium surged out of nowhere into the lead, just one single point ahead of Erdi. The leaderboard wasn't just shuffling, it was completely inverting after every single race.
This is the inherent nature of large fleet dinghy racing. It is an environment of profound, uncontrollable variables.
Right.
A single invisible wind shift that favors the right side of the course, a slightly mistimed start where you are caught behind another boat, or getting trapped in the turbulent, disrupted wake of the fleet, what sailors call dirty wind, can send a top contender from first place back to 30th in a matter of minutes.
Just like that.
Just like that. In an ILCA 6 fleet of that caliber, every single sailor has perfect boat handling. What separates the gold from the back of the pack is the ability to consistently predict the chaotic physics of the weather. And consistency over a week-long regatta is almost impossible.
Which perfectly sets the stage for the ultimate climax.
Yeah.
The medal race on August 20th.
Oh, the medal race.
For context, in sailing, after a week of qualifying races, the top 10 boats advanced to a final double points medal race.
Right.
Going into this final race at The Hague, the top of the leaderboard was an absolute logjam. 5 sailors were mathematically capable of taking the gold. They were all within 9 points of each other.
That is unbelievably tight.
Maud Jayet of Switzerland was holding a terrifyingly narrow 4-point lead over both Maria Erdi and Anne-Marie Rindam, and just breathing down their necks, 5 points back, were Marit Baumeister and the American, Charlotte Rose. It was a winner-take-all scenario.
And this is where the absolute brutality of the sport truly manifests itself. We have to examine what happened to Maud Jayet.
Yeah, let's talk about Jayet.
Imagine her position. She is leading the World Championship. She has sailed a brilliant, exhausting, highly consistent regatta over a grueling week in the North Sea.
She survived it all.
Right. The gold medal is entirely within her grasp. The race begins. But then, on the second leg of the course, disaster strikes. She receives an on-water penalty.
Now, the sources we have don't specify the exact nature of the infraction.
Right. We don't know exactly what happened.
It could have been a right-of-way rules violation at a mark rounding where boats converge at high speeds, or it could have been a penalty under what's called Rule 42, which governs illegal propulsion.
Meaning an on-water umpire decided she was rocking the boat or pumping the sail too aggressively to generate artificial speed.
Exactly. But regardless of the cause, the impact is immediate, and it is devastating. In a fleet this tightly packed, taking a penalty means you have to immediately sail clear of the fleet and do penalty turns.
Usually spinning the boat in a complete 720-degree circle.
2 full circles. Let's break down why a 720-degree turn is a death sentence in a medal race.
It's not just the time it takes to spin the boat. When you spin, you completely kill your forward momentum. Your sails luff and flap. Your foils stall out.
You're dead in the water.
Exactly. And worst of all, while you are spinning, the rest of the fleet sails past you. Now, you are no longer sailing in clean, undisturbed air. You are sailing in their dirty wind.
Right, you mentioned that earlier.
The air coming off their sails is turbulent and slow. It is like trying to drive a race car through the exhaust wash of the leader. You have no grip.
That sounds impossible to recover from.
Once you fall to the back of an elite top 10 fleet, clawing your way back up is nearly impossible because the leaders are constantly covering you, blocking your wind to maintain their position.
And that's exactly what happened. That single penalty instantly evaporated years of meticulous, agonizing training. Jayet finishes 14th in that medal race.
Heartbreaking.
The math is merciless. It drops her straight out of the gold medal position. Maria Erdi of Hungary sails a clean race, manages to finish 3rd in that specific race, and that gives her enough cumulative points to officially clinch the World Championship title.
Wow.
Jayet, who led the entire week, has to settle for silver. Rindam takes bronze, and the hometown hero, Baumeister, finishes agonizingly just off the podium in 4th place.
It really highlights a level of psychological resilience that is hard to overstate. To sail on that ragged edge of physical exertion, making split-second tactical decisions based on invisible wind currents, while knowing that a single marginal judgment call by an umpire in a rubber motorboat will cost you a world championship.
It's so different from other sports. It's not like a tennis match where if you drop a set, you can walk to the sideline, towel off, reset your strategy, and grind your way back into the match over the next 2 hours.
No, not at all.
In an Olympic qualifying medal race, one penalty on the second leg, and the gold medal is gone. Poof! It vanishes forever.
It's brutal.
But despite the heartbreak, the geopolitical impact of the single race was massive. By finishing the regatta, 16 different nations fundamentally shifted the global power map of the sport. Countries from Hungary and Switzerland to Argentina and Norway secured their quotas, ensuring their flags would fly at the Olympics.
And that transition from the intense, isolated pressure of a world championship to the broader, global narrative of the sport is exactly what the administrators are trying to formalize right now.
Okay, how so?
Because an event like The Hague cannot just exist in isolation if the sport wants to grow.
Yeah.
It needs to be part of a continuous, understandable storyline for the fans.
Which perfectly brings us to the next evolution of the sport. According to our sources from SailWeb and official regatta documents, the entire structure of elite sailing is being reorganized and heavily branded into what is called the 2026 Sailing Grand Slam.
Yes, the SGS. This is a very deliberate, strategic attempt by World Sailing to create a cohesive, year-round narrative.
Like a real season.
Exactly. Think about tennis with Wimbledon, Roland Garros, and the U.S. Open, or golf with the Masters and the PGA Championship. Sailing has always had prestigious historic regattas, but they were scattered. The casual viewer had no idea how a race in Spain connected to a race in Germany.
Right, they just seem like random events.
The Grand Slam links them together.
Yeah, exactly. They are taking the 5 biggest, most prestigious Olympic classes events in the world and linking them into a premier high-visibility circuit. So what does this circuit actually look like? Where are these athletes traveling over the course of the 2026 season?
It's a grueling transcontinental schedule. It kicks off with SGS-1 in late March at the Princess Sofia Regatta in Palma, Mallorca, Spain.
Okay, beautiful spot to start.
That's the traditional European season opener. Then in April, they move to SGS-2 at the Semaine Olympique Française in Hyères, France.
Very nice.
SGS-3 takes the fleet to the end of May for the Dutch Water Week in Almere, Netherlands. SGS-4 is the massive Kieler Woche, or Kiel Week, in Germany in late June.
Wow, okay.
And finally, they cross the Atlantic for SGS-5, wrapping up the circuit in July at the Long Beach Olympic Classes Regatta in the United States, which serves as critical preparation for the LA28 Olympics.
It's a massive logistical undertaking for these teams to ship boats and equipment around the world. And we actually have a fascinating snapshot of what this looks like on the ground right now at the Dutch Water Week, which is taking place in Almere on the IJsselmeer Lake.
Right, SGS-3.
This is the 3rd stop on the Grand Slam, and the elite competition is predictably fierce. In the 49er men's class we talked about earlier, the American duo of Andrew Mullis and Trevor Bornarth are leading the pack early on.
Strong team.
Yeah. In the ILCA 6 women, the Dutch sailor Maxime Jonker is currently holding the top spot, which the home crowd is absolutely loving.
Naturally.
And in the ILCA 7 men, which is the heavier men's single-handed dinghy, Swiss sailor Gauthier Verhulst is setting the pace.
But if we only look at the elite leaderboard, we are missing the true strategic value of the Dutch Water Week.
Oh, how so?
What is really crucial to analyze here is the ecosystem the organizers have built around the elite racing. They have made a very deliberate, calculated choice to place public, grassroots sports participation at the absolute heart of the festival.
Yeah, this completely caught my eye when reading the sources. It's such a strange juxtaposition. Out on the water, you have these Olympic-tier gladiators fighting for vital Grand Slam points.
Right.
But right next to them, the event features all these grassroots public activities. They have e-foiling clinics where people are flying above the water on electric surfboards. They have wingsurfing tryout sessions.
Very modern, trendy water sports.
Yeah. They have a brilliant environmental initiative called Clean Up on Tour to get the community involved in local ecology. But the most interesting one is a program called Optimist on Tour.
Oh, the Optimist, yes.
The Optimist is a tiny bathtub-shaped pram that serves as the entry-level boat for millions of children worldwide.
That's where almost every professional sailor starts.
Right. And they have this program designed specifically to get young kids from the public, kids who have never sailed before, into these tiny Optimus dinghies right there at the event.
It's brilliant.
So, you have a 10-year-old awkwardly holding a tiller for the first time, getting splashed, just a few hundred meters away from Andrew Moluris flying a 49er skiff at 30 knots. Why combine these two worlds? Is this sailing's way of desperately building a grassroots army to ensure its future?
That is precisely what it is. It is a calculated survival strategy.
Really?
If we look at the overarching politics of the International Olympic Committee, the IOC is constantly evaluating which sports stay in the Olympics and which sports get cut.
Right, they cycle them out.
They are absolutely ruthless. They look at youth appeal, global broadcast reach, and grassroots participation. The administrators of sailing are acutely aware that their sport can appear deeply elitist, geographically isolated, and financially inaccessible to the general public.
I mean, it definitely has that reputation.
It does. If sailing remains an isolated pursuit for a handful of highly funded, wealthy athletes, its Olympic status is in severe jeopardy.
So by running Optimist on tour next to the Grand Slam, they are trying to prove a point to the IOC.
Exactly. The Dutch Water Week model is an attempt to tangibly demonstrate that sailing is a vibrant, accessible, community-driven lifestyle, not just an elite exclusionary competition.
That makes total sense.
By embedding the highest echelon of the sport within a public festival, they are demystifying it. They are trying to show the IOC and the public that there is a direct, accessible pipeline from a 10-year-old trying out a bathtub boat in Almere to standing on an Olympic podium.
It's a fascinating sociological experiment, but if the Dutch Water Week is about building the grassroots, improving accessibility, the next stop on the Grand Slam circuit is about something entirely different.
Oh, very different.
It is about pure, overwhelming historical scale, because the Grand Slam builds in momentum over the spring until it reaches its absolute peak in late June at the granddaddy of all regattas, a beast of an event, Kiel Week, or as it's traditionally known in Germany, Kielerwoche.
Kiel Week is an entity that is genuinely difficult to comprehend until you look at the raw numbers. It is universally recognized as the largest sailing event globally and simultaneously. It functions as one of the largest summer public festivals in all of Northern Europe.
The scale is staggering. I was reading through the historical archives on this, and the numbers read more like a small country's census than a sporting event.
They really do.
We are talking about 3 million visitors descending on the city of Kiel in Schleswig-Holstein. There are 5,000 sailors competing. There are 2,000 ships out on the water.
It's massive.
The event completely takes over the entire city infrastructure and the Kiel Fjord. And it all culminates in a massive, thunderous fireworks display over the water at 11 p.m. on the final Sunday. How did a boat race turn into a 3 million person mega festival?
Well, to understand that, we really have to look at its roots, which go back to the very dawn of organized competitive sailing in Europe. It didn't start as a massive festival. No, it began on June 23, 1882, with a highly modest race of just 20 wooden yachts sailing out of the Justenbroek area.
20 yachts, that's a huge difference.
But it grew incredibly fast because it quickly became intertwined with national prestige. By 1889, German Emperor Wilhelm II became a regular visitor.
Ah, okay.
When the Kaiser shows up, the event instantly gains massive royal and national prestige. In 1895, the opening of the Kiel Canal, which was an engineering marvel then called the Kaiser Wilhelm Canal, was specifically timed to coincide with Kiel Week to showcase German maritime power to the world.
So it basically became an instrument of state projection. You can literally trace the tumultuous history of Germany in the 20th century by looking at the history of this regatta.
You really can.
It was interrupted by the outbreak of World War I in 1914. Then, during the 1930s, the Nazi regime recognized its scale and co-opted the event as a massive propaganda instrument, using it to host the sailing events for the infamous 1936 Berlin Olympics.
Right.
It was halted again by the devastation of World War II. And then there is this incredibly poignant detail in the archives. The very first Kiel Sailing Week after the war, in 1945, was actually organized by the British Occupation Army. They used it as a way to begin normalizing life in the devastated city.
That is a fascinating detail.
It's hosted the Olympic sailing competitions twice in 1936 and again in 1972 for the Munich Games. Kiel Week isn't just a regatta, it is the historical soul of the sport in Europe.
It is. And managing an event with that much historical baggage and that much modern scale requires a logistical miracle. Because Keel Week effectively serves two entirely different masters simultaneously.
What do you mean?
Well, out in the Olympic harbor of Schilksee, miles away from the city center, you have the deadly serious, hyper-competitive Sailing World Cup regattas. This is where the Grand Slam points are earned.
Right, the elite stuff.
This is where the 49ers and the ILCA6s are battling in highly regulated, cordoned-off race courses. But back in the city center, stretching along the waterfront promenade called the Kevin이, it's a massive, chaotic public party.
It's an insane mix. You have the Spillini, which is this huge, dedicated children's area. You have the international market taking over the Rathausplatz, selling food from dozens of different countries. You have the Soundcheck Music Festival with massive bands playing on free public stages.
It's wild.
If I had to describe it, it sounds like a mashup of the Super Bowl, a World's Fair, and a Maritime History Museum, all happening simultaneously in one city.
That is a perfect analogy. And the Maritime History Museum aspect comes vividly alive during what is known as the Windjammer Parade, or the Tall Ships Parade.
Oh, I read about this.
This specific tradition started in 1972. It was originally called Operation Sail, designed to celebrate the spirit of the '72 Olympic Games. It gathers over 100 traditional massive sailing ships from around the world.
Wow.
These are multi-masted barks, brigs, and schooners. They are often led by the famous German naval training ship, the Gorschwach. Millions of people line the shores of the fjord just to watch these massive historical vessels parade under full sail. It is a spectacular visual link to the 19th century origins of the event.
And it's also deeply embedded in the cultural and design history of Germany, which I found fascinating. Since 1948, Kiel has held a highly prestigious, fiercely competitive juried competition to design the annual Kiel Week poster.
Yes, the posters are legendary.
It's considered a massive honor for graphic designers across Europe. Legendary artists like Anton Stankowski in 1962 and the Dutch designer Wim Krall in 1998 have designed these posters. And they take that design and create these beautiful annual enamel plaques for the competitors, a tradition dating back to before World War II. It's an absolute collector's dream.
But the core identity of Kiel Week, beneath the music and the tall ships and the posters, will always be the racing.
Of course.
And if you look at the lists of historical winners, you see names that have practically achieved demigod status in the sailing world, because winning Kiel is fundamentally different than winning anywhere else.
Oh, absolutely. The sheer volume of classes racing is insane. You have the modern Olympic classes, but you also have these deep historical classes that have been racing there for decades. Boats like the Flying Dutchman, the Contender, the Star, and the OK Dinghy.
The classics.
And looking through the archives, there are absolute legends who didn't just win Kiel Week, they owned it. Let's talk about Wolfgang Hunger.
Wolfgang Hunger is an institution at Kiel. He is the benchmark against which local mastery is measured.
His record is absurd. He won the men's 470 class, which is a highly technical two-person Olympic dinghy in 1987, 1988, 1991, and 1993.
Incredible.
Most sailors would retire happy with that. But then Hunger transitions into the 505 class. Now, the 505 is a ridiculously fast, overpowered, incredibly complex two-person dinghy, and he just goes on a multi-decade tear.
He really does.
He wins Kiel Week in the 505 in 1997, 98, 99, 2000, 2002, 2004, 2007, 2008. I'm not going to list them all, but the punchline is he won it again in 2021. That is 34 years after his first victory there. How is that humanly possible against 5,000 of the world's best sailors?
It speaks to an unparalleled, almost instinctual mastery of those specific local waters.
Okay, break that down for me.
Let's look at why Kiel is so difficult to sail. The Kiel Fjord is a narrow, heavily trafficked body of water leading out to the Baltic Sea. It has incredibly complex, shifting wind patterns. The land masses channel the breeze, creating thermal effects that change drastically throughout the day.
So the wind is never consistent?
Never. It has strange, unpredictable currents and a very steep, aggressive chop. To dominate in that specific environment across 4 decades requires a level of environmental intuition that borders on the supernatural.
Right.
Hunger didn't just know how to make a 505 go fast. He could read the microscopic ripples on the water to predict a wind shift minutes before it hit. He knew how the current wrapped around a specific buoy. That kind of local knowledge cannot be taught. It has to be earned over thousands of hours on that specific patch of water.
And you see a similar incredible dominance in the 2.4 meter class with Heiko Kroger. Now, for you listening, the 2.4 meter is a very unique boat. It is a single-handed keel boat. Unlike the ILCA6, where you are hiking out and using your body weight, in the 2.4 meter, the sailor is seated deep inside the hull, looking forward. Because physical strength and mobility aren't the primary factors, it is deeply tactical, and it is frequently sailed by Paralympic athletes.
Exactly.
Heiko Kroger won his first Kiel Week in 2002, and then he proceeded to win it basically every other year: 2004, 2005, 2009, 2010, 2013, 2015, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2019, 2021, and 2022. He practically owns the deed to that class at Kiel.
It's these incredible narratives of human excellence, of tactical genius over decades that Kiel Week has fostered for over a century. But, and this is the vital crux of our deep dive today, we have to look at the dark cloud hanging over this festival.
The format changes.
Yes, because despite the massive 3 million person attendance, despite the rich geopolitical history, and despite the incredible athleticism of people like Hunker and Kroger, Olympic sailing is suffering a massive, potentially fatal existential crisis when it comes to global television audiences.
Right, because having 3 million people drink beer, eat bratwurst, and watch tall ships from the shoreline in Germany is fantastic for the local Kiel economy. But it does absolutely nothing for the television broadcast ratings in Los Angeles or Tokyo or London.
Nothing at all.
And the International Olympic Committee, at the end of the day, does not care about your local beer festival. They care about global broadcast rights and television viewership. If people aren't watching the sport on TV, the sport is in danger.
Exactly. And we have to be honest. Traditional sailing is notoriously difficult to broadcast effectively.
Why is that?
Think about the logistics. The race courses are massive, sometimes miles across. The boats are far apart. The wind shifts that dictate the strategy are completely invisible to a TV audience.
Yeah, you just see boats seemingly sailing in random directions.
Right. And the overall scoring system, a cumulative low-point system accrued over a week of racing, makes it very difficult for a casual viewer tuning in on Sunday afternoon to understand who is actually winning.
Oh, the scoring is so confusing for a newcomer.
If the guy crossing the finish line in first place actually finishes third overall because of math from 4 days ago, the casual viewer changes the channel.
Which brings us to the bombshell article from My Sailing, detailing the truly radical format changes that World Sailing is implementing for the 2026 Sailing Grand Slam, culminating at Kieler Woche on June 24th. And when I say radical, I don't mean tweaking a rule here or there.
Yeah, it's a complete overhaul.
I mean, they are fundamentally altering the underlying mathematics of how the sport is scored to explicitly manufacture drama for the television cameras.
The intention is not hidden. It is very explicitly designed to secure the sport's Olympic future beyond the LA28 games.
Right.
World Sailing knows they need reliable, predictable competition schedules. They need maximum medal contenders still in the fight on the final day of racing. And they need races that are punchy, visually exciting, and easy for a layperson to understand immediately.
Okay, let's unpack these changes, because they are wild. First, instead of just one medal race at the end of the regatta, there will now be 2.
Okay, more races.
Second, these medal races are going to be incredibly short. We aren't talking about hour-long tactical battles anymore. These are furious sprints designed to last only 12 to 17 minutes.
Very fast.
Third, they are moving to a single-point scoring system for these races instead of the traditional double points. But here is the absolute kicker, the rule that is tearing the sailing community apart: the point compression system.
This is undoubtedly the most controversial aspect of the overhaul. It challenges the very definition of competitive fairness.
It really does. Let's explain why this is so jarring. Under the old system, sailing rewarded cumulative excellence. If you sailed brilliantly all week, like Madriette was doing before her penalty, you could mathematically build such a massive points lead over the rest of the fleet that you could actually clinch the gold medal before the final medal race was even sailed.
Right, you could win early.
You could theoretically sit on the beach on the last day, drink a coffee, and still win gold. For the athlete, that is the ultimate reward for dominance. But for a TV producer, having a final televised race where the winner is already mathematically decided is an absolute broadcast nightmare. There's no drama.
So World Sailing has eliminated that possibility entirely. Under the new point compression system, the top 10 boats from the opening series still advance to the medal races. But before those races start, the officials artificially compress their scores.
Compress them how?
The new rule states that no finalist is allowed to enter the medal races with more than a 9-point lead over second place.
Wait, what?
Exactly. It does not matter if you dominated the week. Furthermore, the maximum deficit behind third place for the sailors ranked 4th through 10th is artificially reduced to 18 points.
I have to push back hard on this.
Yeah.
This is where I get genuinely heated on behalf of the athletes. They are literally changing the math of the sport to keep viewers from changing the channel.
Yeah.
Let's play this out. Let's say I am an ILCA 6 sailor. I sail perfectly for 6 days in grueling conditions. I have mastered the wind. I beat the entire fleet by 50 points. I have objectively, undeniably crushed the competition.
You've earned it.
Under this new rule, the organizers step in on the final day and say, congratulations on your brilliant, historic week of athletic excellence. We are now erasing 41 points of your lead, so the guy in second place has a chance to beat you on television.
It sounds insane when you phrase it like that.
It's like resetting the score of a basketball game in the fourth quarter just so it stays a one-possession game. A boat that limped horribly into 10th place all week could mathematically have a lucky 15-minute sprint and steal a bronze medal from someone who outsailed them for 6 days. How is this in any way fair to the athletes who put their lives into this?
I completely understand the frustration. The sailing purists, the veterans of the sport, share your exact outrage. It feels like an artificial penalization of excellence. It feels manufactured.
Very manufactured.
But we have to look at the brutal Darwinian reality of modern global sports. The IOC does not care about your 50-point lead. A sport without a massive engaged audience loses its Olympic status. Period.
Okay, yeah.
And if sailing is dropped from the Olympics, the catastrophic cascade effect begins. The massive government funding that sustains these athletes evaporates. The national sailing federations go bankrupt. The research and development of incredible boats like the 49ers stops entirely. The grassroots programs like Optimist on Tour disappear.
So it all comes tumbling down.
So the hard truth is this. Fairness in scoring simply doesn't matter if the sport itself goes extinct.
That is a very dark but very real perspective. You're basically saying, I have to amputate the purity of the scoring system to save the body of the sport.
It is a profound compromise for survival. The administrators are making a massive gamble. They're gambling that the athletes are resilient enough to adapt to the new rules, just as they adapt to a sudden change in wind or current. And they are gambling that the resulting high-stakes, unpredictable 15-minute televised sprints will finally translate the genuine kinetic excitement of sailing to a global audience. The goal is clear. They want 10 different nations mathematically capable of winning a medal on the final day. That is a broadcaster's dream, even if it's a purist's nightmare.
Okay, I see the logic. The survival of the sport demands entertainment. But to make this made-for-TV drama actually work, broadcasters need something else. Absolute, unyielding reliability.
Oh, yes. Timing is everything.
They need the race to start exactly when the TV schedule says it will start, right after the commercial break. And anyone who has ever watched a large fleet sailing race knows that the sport is famously, infuriatingly plagued by false starts and endless delays.
Yes, the dreaded general recall.
There.
To understand why this is a problem for TV, we have to understand how a traditional sailing race starts.
Please explain.
There is no starting gate. You have dozens of boats jockeying for position behind an invisible line in the water drawn between two official committee boats. The countdown clock ticks down from 5 minutes to 0.
Okay, building the tension.
The sailors are trying to accelerate, so they hit that invisible line at maximum speed exactly at 0. If the race committee, looking down that line with their naked eyes, sees that a significant number of boats have crossed that invisible line before 0, but there are too many to identify exactly who was early, they sound a general recall.
And what does that do?
They abort the entire start, they bring everyone back, reset the line, and start the entire 5-minute countdown sequence all over again.
Which is absolute toxic poison for live TV programming. Imagine watching a 100-meter dash at the Olympics, but the runners keep false starting, and the officials have to keep resetting the blocks, and this goes on for 45 minutes while the broadcast commentators frantically try to fill dead air.
It's unwatchable.
You simply cannot schedule a highly produced 15-minute sprint race for a global TV audience if the starting sequence might take an hour of delays. So, how do you fix an invisible line on a moving body of water? Enter the space-age technology.
Exactly. To solve this broadcast nightmare, the 49er class is pioneering an electronic, GPS-based starting system. We are finally moving away from officials standing on a bobbing committee boat, trying to eyeball an invisible line across hundreds of meters of water. Now, precise satellite technology establishes a digital start line to the exact centimeter.
And according to the My Sailing article, this isn't just about drawing a line on a screen. Every single 49er boat in the fleet carries a highly accurate, incredibly fast GPS tracker. So when the countdown hits 0, the computer instantly knows precisely which boats, if any, were over the line.
Yes, the human error and the guesswork are entirely eliminated. There are no more general recalls.
No.
None. If a boat is over early, their specific tracker flags them instantly on the umpire's tablet. That specific boat is individually penalized. They have to turn back and recross the line while the rest of the fleet continues racing without interruption. The race starts on time every single time. It gives the TV producers the absolute certainty they need to program the sport.
The profound irony of this is just delicious. So we have gone from guys with magnificent mustaches in 1882 visually lining up wooden ships by eyeballing a flag on the beach at Kiel to using military-grade satellites orbiting in outer space to track a 4.9-meter carbon fiber dinghy to the absolute centimeter. Purely so, a TV producer in a control room in London doesn't miss a commercial break.
It is a striking juxtaposition. The most ancient elemental sport of humanity harnessing wind and water to travel is now fundamentally reliant on space-age orbital technology to function at the Olympic level. And the crucial thing is, it's working. Yes. Kiel Week is actively using these exact technological innovations. The precise GPS starts, the highly compressed short-format sprint racing, the live digital tracking broadcast on Kilowatt TV to bolster its bid to host the Olympic sailing competitions again in 2036, 2040, or 2044. They are proving to the IOC that they can deliver a modern, reliable, high-drama broadcast product.
It really is a fascinating evolution we've traced today. We started this deep dive looking at the physical engineering of the boats, how the standard modulus carbon mass and the square top sail of the 49er are designed to bend and twist to spill the wind and survive the physical gales. But what we've really been looking at is how the entire institution of sailing is bending and twisting to survive the gales of the modern entertainment industry.
Precisely. The macro perfectly reflects the micro, and the takeaway here applies far beyond the boundaries of the Kiel Fjord or the North Sea.
Really? How so?
Well, whether you are a 140-year-old historic regatta trying to stay relevant in the 21st century, or just a professional navigating a rapidly shifting industry in your own career, the lesson is clear. You have to evolve your format to meet your audience's needs. Sometimes, survival requires you to literally rewrite your own rulebook, artificially compress your own metrics of success, and embrace technologies that fundamentally change how you operate.
Right.
Adaptation isn't just about preserving tradition. It's the only way to ensure you have a future at all.
That is incredibly well said, and it leaves you, the listener, with a really provocative thought to mull over. If Olympic sailing, a sport deeply steeped in traditional, unforgiving, pure athletic competition, is willing to artificially compress scores, erase hard-earned leads, and use satellites to mandate broadcast drama, how long until other traditional sports follow suit?
That's the million-dollar question.
How long until we see the rulebooks of basketball or soccer or track and field fundamentally altered not for fairness, but purely for the algorithm, the TV producer, and the attention economy? Where exactly is the line between pure athletic competition